Hey guys, so today we are going to talk all about the number one thing to avoid for each body type. We talk a lot about what you could wear so that everything looks really connected to your lines and your silhouette, but we don't talk too much about don'ts. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to show you guys some drawings and talk about what would be the number one thing to avoid depending on your body type. So if you're new here, I will leave some videos down below if you don't know what's going on that you could watch to get started in learning about this topic. And if you are still confused about your body type, I also offer body typing and color typing through my website, and I'll leave a link to that down below. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so the first body type that we have is sharpened taut. The closest Kibbe type is dramatic. So for sharpened taut, I would say that the number one thing to stay away from is any sort of rounded lines, so any sort of romantic lines. So that means things that are short lines, frilly things, and at the same time fitted, and you can see how disconnected it looks on this drawing from the model, and it will oftentimes bring out in a juxtaposing way, in an unintentional way, the length of the lines of sharpened taut as well as the angularity of sharpened taut. Next up we have sharpened soft. So for sharpened soft, the closest Kibbe type is soft dramatic, and the thing that is going to look most disconnected from you are going to be mixed taut lines. So that's basically more or less flamboyant gamine elements. So we're talking about short lines, stiff fabrics at the same time that you have short lines, and contrasting chunky elements that are geometric are all going to look very disconnected from you, especially when worn at the same time. The number one thing to avoid, both for sharpened and sharpened soft, is those short lines, because the long lines of the silhouette are really the sort of the crux of your line recommendations, is those long lines. And so the reason why this type of look is going to look disconnected from sharpened soft is because sharpened has long lines while this has short lines, and sharpened soft, right, is soft, and mixed taut is taut. So anybody who has a soft physique, soft features, is going to look much more harmonious, connected to elements that are soft, lightweight fabrics, things like that. So if you're going to have this really stiff fabric combined with the short lines, it's really pretty much the opposite of sharpened soft. So it's going to look really very disconnected. Okay, now we have beveled firm. The closest Kibbe type is flamboyant natural or natural. They're really pretty similar in terms of the line recommendations, so I personally don't make a distinction between beveled firm and beveled moderate. So anyway, the thing is the same. Okay, so beveled firm has really long lines and they have a firm physique, just like sharpened taut, just like dramatic. So the whole thing here is going to be that you want to avoid short lines, you want to avoid frilly things, and you can see how disconnected it looks from this model on the drawing. Just those small frilly elements compared to the soft angularity and the length of the lines of beveled firm. Next up we have beveled soft. Beveled soft doesn't have, every time you add softness, you actually kind of do shorten the lines a tiny bit. So the closest Kibbe type to beveled soft is soft natural. And soft natural, beveled soft, has slightly shorter lines than beveled firm and then sharpened, okay, but at the same time you still have those longer lines, and so this is sort of a similar story to sharpened soft, to soft dramatic. Okay, so anything that is those short lines with stiff fabrics, while you, beveled soft, you have long lines with lightweight fabrics. You also have textures, and this type of look is going to be really, it's going to look too stiff on you. Anything that has really stiff fabrics, anything that has really sleek fabrics, stiff, short lines, contrasting elements add another element of even shorter lines. Whenever you add a contrasting element, you kind of shorten the lines. So contrasting elements are also going to be quite disconnected from beveled soft. So anything that is sort of the analog of mixed taut, flamboyant gamine, any elements like that are going to look quite disconnected from you if you're beveled soft, and you can see how disconnected it looks on the drawing too. Next up we have all blended types. All blended types have the same thing, that they really should be avoiding if they want for their look to not be too disconnected from them. And in some ways for blended is the closest type is classic. Okay, so we're talking about all classics, all blended types. The thing with blended is that they're in the middle. Their lines are not too short, not particularly long. The angles are not particularly rounded. They're not particularly angular. So everything is in the middle. So sometimes when I say disconnected, you can see in the drawing that it doesn't look as disconnected from the model as it did for the other models who have longer lines or really geometric features. So blended being in the middle means that a lot is going to look quite all right on blended in a lot of ways. At the same time, the reason why I chose beveled lines or natural lines to avoid for blended is because blended really looks best in a smooth silhouette. In smooth lines, not that many textures, the hair being quite smooth in terms of the outline and things like that. So when you do the opposite, when you wear beveled lines and you wear all of this texture, tousled hair, oversized fits, another thing to avoid is a front tuck for your shirt, because that's going to create folds in the fabric, and that's going to actually look messy on a blended type. That's how clean and smooth your lines really have to be to look connected to you and connected to your silhouette. So that's the thing for blended, is that sometimes, you know, if you're having trouble looking, you know, put together, you're probably a blended type. And it's not that you're not put together, it's that the lines are maybe not quite right for you, because beveled lines are very popular, like what I have drawn here. So if you are any blended type, blended soft, blended sharpened, pure blended, anything like that, then try to stay away from this type of texture, tousled look, any sort of oversized fit, anything like that. Try to stay away from that. So that is for all blended types. Okay, next up we have mixed soft. The closest Kibbe type is soft gamine. So for mixed soft, the thing that you will probably look most disharmonious and most disconnected from is going to be any sort of sharpened lines, any sort of dramatic lines, because you have short lines and sharpened has long lines. You have kind of lightweight fabrics, small detailing. Sharpened has heavy fabrics and sleek fabrics and larger detailing. So also you have a lot of detail, right? You are a mixed type, and sharpened has a relatively minimal detail look compared to you. So you're going to look really very plain and like you're wearing someone else's clothes if you are mixed soft and you're wearing sharpened. And you can see in the drawing on the model how plain and sort of boring sharpened lines look on mixed soft, and they can really just completely obscure sort of the lines of mixed soft, because your lines are so small and so short, and those long lines and the thick fabrics are going to just completely drown your small frame. So stay away from anything like that, or too many elements like that, especially in an unintentional way, can be really disconnected from you. Okay, now we have mixed and mixed taut, so gamine and flamboyant gamine, more or less. And the thing with both of these types, especially for mixed taut, is you want to avoid anything that is sharp and soft, soft dramatic. And especially a head-to-toe look in sharp and soft, like you see here, is going to look really disconnected from you, and it might look really just sort of like a little bit, it'll make you look a bit boyish maybe, and really very disconnected. So what's happening here is that sharpened soft, right? Sharpened has long lines, mixed has short lines, and then sharpened soft has soft lines, and mixed taut has taut lines, right? So taut means that you would wear any heavyweight fabrics, stiff fabrics, things like that, and Soft is, soft fabrics. So it's not that as mixed taut you want to necessarily stay away from soft fabrics altogether, but you don't want to do soft fabrics head to toe with soft hair, with soft blended makeup. You want to incorporate that dynamic mixture of opposites if you are mixed taut. So if you wear something like this head to toe, it's going to look really quite disconnected from you. And instead, though, you could do something like wear one element of even sharp and soft, and have another element that has short lines to it. And I talk about this a lot in other videos on my channel, so I won't get into it too much, but I will leave a link down below to some resources about mixed taut lines if you're interested in that. Next up, we have rounded or romantic. So we're talking about all rounded types, all romantic types, rounded mixed, theatrical romantic. Okay, so I debated whether to say that the worst lines for rounded are either beveled or sharpened, and I ended up going for beveled. I ended up going for natural lines being really the worst and the most disconnected for all rounded types because, and not sharpened, right? Because they are long and they're also textured and unconstructed, and they are going to look really messy on rounded. Whereas sharpened lines or dramatic lines are going to obviously look almost as disconnected. They will look really just as disconnected as beveled. But at the same time, at least those lines are clean, and rounded has clean lines. So you do have that small, tiny bit in common with sharpened. You really have nothing in common with sharpened, okay? But if you did, it would be the smooth lines and things not being textured and tousled and messy. But with beveled, you really have nothing in common with beveled at all. Beveled has unconstructed, sort of loose, tousled, textured lines, and you have smooth and soft lines and clean lines. You have short lines and beveled has long lines. So that is going to be really the most disconnected from you. And if you're interested, try to look up Drew Barrymore with tousled hair and just see how disconnected that type of textured look is from rounded. So that it adds an element of sort of messiness to the look, and it looks very unintentional. So definitely I would say beveled or natural lines are probably the most disconnected from all rounded types. So from romantic and theatrical romantic, I would avoid all natural elements. So that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will leave some links down below to videos that you can watch if you're new here and you are confused. And if you're still confused, I'll leave some links to my body typing and color typing that I offer through my website. So leave me some comments, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you next time. Okay, bye.